Okay, so let's see the print function in action now. And this time we will not use the terminal. Instead, we'll use the program, the source code, the Python file. Okay, so this is where we'll type. Okay, now as I said, print takes zero or more arguments, right? So you can pass zero argument to print as well. So you can just say print, and then this, nothing. Okay, print and then this, just this, empty parentheses, and you can run it, and it obviously prints nothing because you did not specify, or you did not provide an argument for it to print. But it does something very subtle, which I'll come back to later on. Okay, now you can also pass a single argument, such as this, such as, you know what, such as this. Okay, you can print a a literal, so you can say print 5, which prints 5, right? uh, you could also print a variable. So let's say you have a variable. Actually, you can print different types of data, right? So this is 5, that's an integer. If you want to print a floating point, we just pass the floating point literal, such as print 3.14. Okay, and this will print 3.14. You could also print string literals, such as you could say things like hi, and it will print hi. Okay, or you could print boolean literals, such as true, and it will print true, right? Now, so these are literals. You could also print variables. So let's have 4 variables, and we'll print them one by one. Okay, so let's have variables a. Okay, a is an integer variable containing the value 5, let's say. B is another variable containing the floating point value, or the real value, 3.14. C is a string variable which contains the value hello, and D is a boolean variable which contains the value false, let's say. Okay, now we could print each of these variables by their names. Okay, so we could say print a, and print B, and print C, and print D, right? And it will print each of the values of these variables in the order that you specify. So you first say print a, so it prints the value of a first, which is 5, and then you say print b, so it prints the value of b, which is 3.14. Okay, then it prints the value of c, then it prints the value of d. Okay, you could also print values of expressions, such as this. You could say print um, let's say a times b, so which is 5 times 3.14. Okay, so when you run this, it prints all of the above, plus it also prints this 15. This is 15.7, right? This point 1 is sort of rounding error. Okay, there are certain numbers that a computer cannot represent, certain real numbers that a computer cannot represent, and this is not part of this course, but any real number that you represent is often rounded up to the closest number that the computer can represent, and in this case it happens to be this number. Okay, ideally it should be 15.7. That's it, there is no this number, right? These errors are because the way the computer represents numbers. But anyways, so just like this, you can also have expressions of you can also have string expressions, like you can say print uh, print a times c, a times c, right? Which will give us hello, 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 because a is 5 and c is hello, and 5 times hello is hello 5 times, essentially, right? So this is how we use the print statement. Now, the point that I made before, I told that uh, if you don't provide an argument to the print function, it does something very subtle. And the point is, print always ends with a new line, right? Print always ends with a new line character, which I said before. Okay, it always ends with a new line. So whenever you print something, it always goes to the next line, right? So if you don't print anything, it will still go to the new line, okay? And here's how we can check it, okay? So print A, let's print nothing, okay? So what do you expect will happen? We said print A, then print nothing, then print B, C, D, okay? Now you'd expect the result to remain the same, but what happens is, and the subtle point here is, when you print nothing, even if actually it's not printing anything, it still goes to the new line, okay? So when you run this, there would be a new line between A and B, like so, okay? This is the new line. This is the result of the empty print statement that you wanted, that you actually specified, or that you asked the Python compiler to run for you, okay? So even if it doesn't print anything, it actually goes to the next line, which is this one, okay? So that's the subtlety that the print empty print statement brings in. So what if you want to print A, B, C, D, right? The values of A, B, C, and D in the same line. What if you don't want this, right? Every new line has some data, 5, 3.14, hello, false, blah, blah, blah. You don't want this, but what you want is you want to actually print them in the same line. Now, this does not work, okay? So you cannot do print A and then space print B, print B, right? You cannot do this. In Python, every statement should be in its own line. Okay, you have to have each statement in a separate line. And every print function call is a statement. So it has to be in a separate line. And if you try writing multiple print statements in the same line, Python complains. It says, I don't, so there is a, there is a, you know, uh, there is a squiggly red line which says invalid syntax. It says invalid syntax. The syntax is not valid. So the way we do that, the way we print multiple variables in the same line, okay, is by using the comma syntax. So we could just say print A, comma B, comma C, comma D, right? And this will print this thing. 3.5, 3.14, hello, false. Now, as you can see, the values of these variables are displayed with a space in between them. So there is a space between 5 and 3.14. There is a space between 3.14 and hello. There is a space between hello and false, right? Now, this space has no relation to this space right here, okay? So you can remove the space like so. You can remove the spaces between A, B, C, and D like so, okay? And it will print the same thing, okay? There is no change. Or you can have as many spaces as you want. You can have as many spaces as you want. It will still do the same thing. You can have spaces between, before the commas as well, okay? You can have spaces before the commas as well. It does not care, okay? Sorry, it does not care, right? It will still do the same thing. If you run it, it'll still do the same thing. And while we are in this point, the spaces between these don't matter as well. So you can have something like no spaces, like so, right? Like so. Uh, no change in the output, right? If you want more spaces, you can just press tabs as well, right? You can, how many spaces do you want? Completely up to you, right? If you want to do something like this, you do this as well, okay? So it's completely up to you. But the general sort of convention, the programming sort of convention is that we do it this way, okay? We do it using one space, okay? Normally that's what I have seen, at least. Some people do it differently, okay? Some people, what they do is, if you have variable names that have different lengths, such as A and BC and CDE and DEFG, what they do is they sort of align the equal to, okay? They align the equal to like so. But that's, it's just, fancy stuff. It improves the readability of the code, but it has no bearing on the final output, okay? So that's completely up to you how you want to format your code. But the idea is you should have at least some space to improve readability, but not a lot. Okay, not like this. This is bad. This is bad. Okay, you ideally have some space between the a comma b, right? And I do it in the way I write like English. So I'd have a and then a comma. I'm sorry. Uh, oops. Okay, we're back. So I would write functions, right? I would write code like I would write English. Okay, so I would have a no space before the comma and then one space after the comma. But again, as I said, that is completely up to you. Okay, so I like my code like this. Okay, a comma b comma c comma d, and a space between the comma and the next character, the next variable name or expression, whatever you have, right? Let me get rid of this as well. So the space does not matter, right? The space does not matter. You can have it like this as well. Look, it looks horrible, but it does not change the outcome of the program. Okay. Also, while we are at it, you have noticed that there is a there is a print A B C D, and then there is a space, and then we have print A B and print A C, print A times B, print A times C, right? But in the output, there is no space, right? In the output, there is no space. After this, we go to the next line directly, and then we print A times B, which is 5 times 3.14, and then we print 5 times hello directly, right? So a space in your code, you can have as many spaces as you like. A space in your code does not translate to a space in your output. Okay, these empty lines are ignored by the compiler. These lines right here, they are ignored. You can also have comments in these lines. The compiler will ignore them as well. So you can have multiple comments here, right? You can have things like uh, a comment like this. This is a sorry. Uh, this is oops is a comment. Okay. Uh, this is another one. This is another one, and so on and so forth. So these are comments. Okay, these are also ignored by the compiler. Okay, so something like this doesn't change the outcome of the program. Now, if you want to have a, let's say, a single line between this one and these two, what would you do? What would you do if you want to include or you want to add a line, a single line, empty line between the first line here and the next two lines here? What would you do? And the answer is all you need is an empty print statement like so. That's it, right? And this will include a new line between your first and the second lines. Okay?